I'm Selena LaSalle, and I have decided to get out of the Army. My hope is to motivate and inspire those currently serving, those contemplating whether or not to end their service, or those thinking about joining. This is an overview of my Army career. I enlisted July 1st, 2013, 1 month after my high school graduation, as a 42 Alpha Human Resources Specialist. I went to both basic and AIT at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. My first and only duty station was Fort Hood, Texas. Like all recruiters say, no, you're not going to go to war and die. However, no matter what your job is, when it's your time to deploy, it's your time. Now, depending on your job and location, your exposure to the enemy may vary. I deployed to Kuwait in support of Operation Enduring Freedom, February 2014, 2.5 months after arriving on Fort Hood. Times have changed, and as of June 2014, Kuwait is no longer considered a combat deployment, but more so as a gateway to other Middle Eastern countries. I was 18 years old, and the desert was the last place I wanted to be. It was a culture shock, and it was already difficult being away from home. I remember trying to sign up for college classes there, and then learning that tuition assistance was revised. Soldiers may only utilize TA a year after they complete AIT. I remember applying for FAFSA and walking back and forth to FedEx trying to fax paperwork to Central Texas College, a community college that offers online classes. It was frustrating enough, and the time difference made it even worse, but I got it done and began taking classes. In Kuwait, I worked as a postal clerk and later as a custodian of postal effects. No one mentioned that postal operations were a part of HR in the Army, but it is. I had a number of responsibilities, which included performing audits on contractors, depositing funds, providing technical support on various postal equipment, etc. They say you never know how strong you are until being strong is the only option you have. The rest of my friends were having what appeared to be an amazing time in college, in cute little dorm rooms, while I shared an open bay with 10 to 15 other females, where some of us worked during the day and others at night. So you can imagine the arguments we would have. Picture a blanket stringed with 550 cord across your section of the bay as your only means of privacy, and having to leave to use the restroom, shower, or do laundry because all those things weren't in the bay. Let's not forget the 120-degree weather, sandstorms, and dry heat. Granted, Kuwait is nothing like what it used to be, so I was grateful for that. Shortly after I redeployed from Kuwait, I was placed on the tax center detail. I've been on several details like Sergeant Major detail, and I have to say that this one didn't feel like a detail at all. I remember doing this one couple's taxes where the husband was an overseas contractor, and whoever did their taxes the previous year failed to give him the tax break he was entitled to, which cheated them out of over $10,000. I remember this woman crying and thanking me because after we redid the year prior and the current year, they would be leaving with close to $30,000. Moments like that make me happy. I've always had a tremendous amount of drive. I was so eager to get promoted. I came in as an E3 because of high school JROTC, and I told myself I would get promoted to E4 with a waiver. The time and service requirement was 18 months. I made it my mission to prove to my leadership that I deserve additional responsibility and that I was ready for it. I continuously set myself apart from my peers, and in 18 months I pinned E4. You should always think 2 ranks ahead though. So 1 month after I pinned E4, I went to BLC, the school requirement in order to pin E5. At this time, I had less than 2 years time in service. People would say, wow, slow down, what's the rush? But I wanted to lead. I was hungry for influence, and I was passionate about developing and mentoring others. You see, the same people who made negative comments about my progression had nothing I aspired to be like. I didn't look up to them, they had nothing positive to offer me, so their opinions didn't mean a thing. You see, not everyone likes to see you make it faster than they did. Some fear you may one day outrank them, but you can't remain stagnant in your career because you feel like people aren't rooting for you or that your leadership isn't being helpful. At some point, you have to do your research and figure out your own path. Don't wait for someone to hold your hand. I graduated BLC, and I told myself I would pin E5 in 3 years. There's this thing called dwell time. It basically means for every month you were deployed, you will be stabilized for that same amount at your duty station. My dwell time was up and I was placed on another deployment. Not all deployments are combat related. This one was strategic. September 2015, I had orders to Europe in support of Operation Atlantic Resolve, where I spent about a month in Germany before I was sent to Lithuania. The camp my squad and I were stationed at was different. We mainly entered two different buildings. We lived in a 5-story building and we worked on the second floor out of an arms room that was turned into a post office. Across the street was the DFAC, where our plates were always made the same. It was always a soup, a mystery meat, mashed potatoes, and coleslaw. If it was any different, it was a good day. Little by little, we earned the opportunity to go off into the city where we were able to interact with the locals, try their food, and shop around. December came, Christmas was approaching, so we flew back to Germany where we joined the rest of our platoon. You already know I had plans to go to the poor, so I made it happen. I earned my promotable status December 23rd, 2015. It was amazing how I could accomplish my goals while in an austere environment, while traveling, and while trying to enjoy myself at the same time. Before I left Germany to go back to Lithuania, my leadership recommended me for a lateral promotion to corporal. As a corporal, you are an NCO, but you are still an E4. There is no change in pay, but a change in responsibility. As a newly promoted NCO, you may find yourself in charge of your friends, and not everyone takes changes like that so easily. Luckily, I've always had like-minded and supportive friends. So here I am, a newly promoted corporal. Fun time was over. Back to Lithuania. It seemed like the command team my squad and I fell under at the time was always trying to micromanage us. I can't remember how many times I fought for us and how many times I had to explain our mission, what we came to do, and what we weren't going to do. My thing is, it's important to learn how to stick up for yourself, because as a leader, it's your duty to stick up and fight for others. You can't be the backbone of the army without a backbone. I remained tactful and respectful at all times, and it was through the many challenges I faced out there that molded me into a better leader. Conflict and how you deal with it builds character. Overall, Lithuania wasn't bad. It was uncomfortable at times, but could be considered a vacation compared to a combat deployment. My 9 months in Europe came to an end. I made it back to Fort Hood. Who else is out there making the best of Motorful Monday? You gotta fake it till you make it these days. Nobody wants to be in the motorpool. Getting dirty. It was at this time where I started feeling uneasy about staying in. I was on the fence, but I kept it to myself. I finally made cutoff and got promoted to E5 October 1st, 2016. This promotion empowered me and I wanted to re-enlist. I wanted to go to Hawaii. They gave it to me. Here you go. We have a spot open for April 2018, they said. They wanted to place me in another sustainment brigade, where most times the missions are the same, which meant frequent deployments in my eyes. I was subconsciously distancing myself from friends and family and slowly losing myself as a person, so I declined Hawaii and declined re-enlisting as a whole for quite some time. I was now working as my company's orderly room NCOIC, primary retention NCO, and my company's public affairs representative, where I highlighted our soldiers and their accomplishments on social media. I was most excited about enhancing my HR skills while teaching them to my soldiers though. We worked tirelessly at improving our company's current battle rhythm and its overall efficiency. I take pride in my work and ensured my soldiers did the same. I've had great leaders, but I've had terrible leadership as well. I made it my mission to set and be an example for soldiers. It was so ironic that I wanted to get out of the Army but was also working as a retention NCO, but it wasn't difficult, to be honest, because my job was to point out what options were available to the soldiers and assist them in making the right decision for themselves and their families. My personal views and thoughts were not necessary. You see, when you take yourself out of a situation, you are able to focus on what's in the best interest of others. I continued to do my job, left my attitude and problems at the door like a great leader should. What's crazy is that I remained open-minded to staying in the whole time. I even went to the promotion board May 24, 2017, where I earned my promotable status to E6. I said to myself, wow, you could really do this. Just re-enlist and see how much further you can go. You can take this all the way if you really wanted to. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know I made a post on the day I went to the board and said that I was going to stay in, that I was no longer going to live in fear, and that if it was my time to deploy again, I would. What I have realized is that I would be living in fear if I stayed in the Army. Fear that I couldn't excel in the civilian sector. Fear that I wouldn't be financially stable. Fear that going to college full-time would be too overwhelming. I appreciate everyone's concerns and advice, but this is the thing. I'm always going to push and challenge myself, which is why I continue to seek promotion and higher levels of responsibility. I'm always going to care and place others before myself. I'm always going to be a leader, but I don't have to be in the Army to lead. I know I can excel in the civilian sector. I've never been the alpha female. It takes me multiple attempts at certain things, but that's what makes me strong. I'm not afraid of failure. I've given myself permission to fail. I will fail my way to the top, just as my company commander once told me. Only some of you may understand that. You see, when you're working towards something, you don't see failure as an end point. You use it as fuel to get to your next point. So I'm now leaving CIF, and they took all of my gear. Items that I was missing totaled, to remember correctly, it was like $668. Ended up finding a few items at my best friend's house, a few items at my parents' house. Came out of pocket, I believe $166. I think I went to like maybe 4 surplus stores and found gear, used gear, make sure I washed it really good, and yeah. Mid-July 2017, I was afforded the opportunity to work at 3 Corps, Fort Hood headquarters. This was an amazing opportunity, and I'm super grateful for the awesome command team I had, which allowed me to pursue it. I worked in SGS, Secretary of the General Staff, where I primarily processed flag requests for the various ceremonies the post commander and his staff attended, as well as the setting up and tearing down of conference meetings. This by far was the easiest job I've ever had. I didn't have to go to any formations or wake up super early. I didn't even have any soldiers. As long as I was at work by 09, I was good. About a week or two into working at 3 Corps, I made my decision to leave the Army. Although this job was a piece of cake, it wasn't fulfilling enough for me to re-enlist. I was ready to further my education in the classroom, not online. I am content with my decision, and I am ready for the next chapter of my life. I know I have made an impact. I know I have given soldiers someone to look up to. I know I have built a solid foundation for my future, and I'm grateful and blessed to have had the opportunity to serve my country. The Army has provided me with a valuable skill set and priceless experiences. So, today is day 5 of me trying to clear the installation. I have been stressed out this week. I have been breaking out this week. Like, look at my eyebrows. My eyebrows are trying to grow in. It's been a struggle. And because I'm ETSing, a lot of the places that I have to go to get stamped off on require a brief or counseling. Everyone's trying to make sure that I either 1, join the Guard or the Reserves, or 2, just ensure that I am completely prepared to enter the civilian sector. Oh, this is horrible lighting, but I'm getting my final stamp right now. Ooh.
Anytime we needed her, Sergeant LaSalle was there. We're talking about nights, weekends, in the middle of the night. I'm contacting Sergeant LaSalle for all kinds of stuff. Put her in the orderly room. I'm telling you what, Sergeant LaSalle came in that position and she took charge. And you know the saying, when in charge, you take charge. And I'll be damned if she didn't do that. Had her soldiers, they were knowledgeable and understood what to do in her absence. And that's what shows you how well a leader trains their soldiers. The hardest thing is, we talked about this, and seeing her get out is very hard because we need good NCOs in the Army. And I know this is a great decision for you in your career path, whether you decided to stay in the Army or not. It's going to be great. because you got too much drive in you to fail, period. So I'm proud of her either way. I wish she could stay in because the soldiers need her leadership, but I'm just so proud of you, and you just don't know how much that means. And I know just for the leadership that you've been able to provide to the soldiers so far, they're going to take that and run with it.
And I have to say, with every task, every mission, everything given to me, it's really made me into the person who I am today. My transition, I try to keep it to myself. I in no way want to make anyone else want to get out. But I will say that I hope that every soldier or NCO that I cross paths with, I hope that I inspired or motivated them in some type of way.
My advice to whoever is watching, no matter what you do, be sure to see how far you can go and how many people you can take with you. Thank you for watching.